Flash Vertical Velocity is the most unique of the Intamin Impulse coasters. Located at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom, this ride did not feature two vertical spikes like the others. One of the spikes is angled, which ends up creating an inversion. As of this recording, the ride is currently closed, which has become the new normal for this ride. So I think this ride's days are unfortunately numbered, and I will explain why in this review. While this review will focus on Discovery Kingdom's Flash, I need to give a full history of the model to put the specific ride's future into context. In the mid-1990s, electromagnetic launches started being added to roller coasters. Premier rides used linear induction motors, or LIMs, for their launch coasters. These were successfully used in their Flight of Fear coasters, both of which opened in 1996. Intamin was also working on launch coasters at this time using magnets. Their first ones would use linear synchronous motors, or LSMs. In 1997, they opened two reverse freefall coasters, Tower of Terror at Dreamworld and Superman at Six Flags Magic Mountain. Both rides accelerated riders to 100 miles per hour or 160 kilometers per hour. While this is the preferred launch method for many manufacturers today, including Intamin, the technology was difficult to implement in the 1990s. This led to Superman being delayed almost a year from the original opening date. So for Intamin's next launch coasters, they decided to use LIMs instead. These debuted on the Impulse coaster. This was an inverted shuttle coaster using a multi-pass launch to propel riders up vertical spikes. The first one opened in 1998 at Tokyo Dome City. Named Linear Gale, this ride accelerated riders to 62 miles per hour or 100 kilometers per hour. This was different from the later installations in that it featured two straight spikes. The later Impulse coasters featured at least one twisting spike. The first Impulse coaster made its way to America in 2000. This would be Superman Ultimate Escape at Six Flags Ohio. This ride would be faster than the prototype Impulse coaster, reaching speeds of 70 miles per hour or 110 kilometers per hour, and it would also be taller, standing 185 feet or 57 meters in height, and it would feature one twisted spike in addition to a straight one. 3 clones of Superman were added in 2001. Liufu Village Theme Park in Taiwan added Screaming Condor. Then Six Flags added 2 more to their US parks, naming both Vertical Velocity. One would go to Six Flags Great America, and one would go to the then Six Flags Marine World. This is the park now known as Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. The latter was an interesting choice. The park has a strict height limit of 150 feet, or 46 meters. Their 2000 floorless coaster named Medusa was exactly this tall for that reason. Yet the park claimed Vertical Velocity was also 150 feet tall, but it very visibly was taller than Medusa. They tried to pull a fast one on the town, but it backfired. They were ordered to either remove it or modify the ride. They chose the latter, so before the 2002 season, they took 35 feet or 11 meters off the back vertical spike. Then the front twisted spike's height was reduced by angling it at a 45-degree angle, creating an inversion over the main entrance. This also caused the ride's top speed to be reduced to 60 miles per hour or 100 kilometers per hour. Cedar Fair began their involvement with the Impulse coasters in 2002 as well. That was the year that Cedar Point added Wicked Twister. This would open as the tallest and fastest inverted coaster. Riders would accelerate to 72 miles per hour or 116 kilometers per hour and rocket up to 215 foot or 66 meter tall twisted spikes. The following year, Valley Fair would receive Steel Venom. This was a clone of Superman. Then in 2004, the chain acquired Six Flags Ohio, renaming it Geauga Lake. Superman was renamed Steel Venom, but after the 2006 season, this ride was relocated to Dorney Park, where it now runs as Possessed. At the time, this seemed like an innocent relocation, but it was the calm before the storm. Geauga Lake would ultimately close after the 2007 season. Speaking of closing, how are the original 7 Intamin Impulse coasters faring today? Not too well. 2 were scrapped entirely. Linear Gale closed in 2010, and Wicked Twister closed in 2021. Another was almost removed. When Dorney Park submitted their original plans for a new coaster in 2020, this would have caused the demolition of Possessed. But this ride was ironically saved by the COVID-19 pandemic. Dorney Park reworked their plans. Instead of adding a rumored wooden shuttle coaster, they added a B&M dive coaster and Iron Menace. They found a way to do this without losing Possessed, and that coaster still regularly operates. 2 others seem to be operating sporadically, so there are questions about their long-term prospects. A handful of enthusiasts who have tried to ride Screamin' Condor lately have found it closed. Those who were lucky enough to find it open discovered it waits nearly 20 minutes in between cycles to save on operating costs. Then there's the most temperamental impulse coaster of all. Vertical Velocity at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom has had the most downtime, quite possibly because of the modification. In 2019, the park rebranded the ride as Flash Vertical Velocity. While it ran fairly consistently for the following year, it has barely operated ever since the pandemic. The ride was closed from 2020 until summer of 2023. The ride ran for the next few months, but it closed in the winter and has yet to reopen. The ride is tentatively scheduled to reopen next year, but I am skeptical given all the downtime. Then this ride has some other issues working against it. 1. It is not operating as originally intended. The holding brake feature has been disabled for many years. This is a unique element placed in the back straight spike of several installations. It would use LIMs to catch a train midair, pausing them for a second. It's a mind-bending maneuver that defies gravity. While undeniably cool, it places a lot of stress on the ride's trains and structure. For this reason, many parks have disabled the feature, even if you still see the hardware present on the spike. These rides have had other issues as well. The spikes had a lot of sway in the original Impulse coasters, leading to increased wear. Wicked Twister in particular had so much sway that extra supports were needed to be retrofitted onto its tower shortly after it opened. Then they are expensive to operate. The LIMs have high power demands. There has only been one Impulse coaster built since 2003. This is legendary Twin Dragon at Chongqing Sunac Land in China. The ride opened in 2021, and it seems to address most of the issues with the older Impulse coasters. Because of the advancements in technology, it instead uses LSMs to propel the train, so it's a reasonable assumption that any future Impulse coasters would also use LSMs. Intamin has not used LIMs in their other coasters in many years. Then the ride ditched the problematic holding brake in favor of 2 twisted spikes, both of which are more robustly supported. And as a bonus, the ride replaced the over-the-shoulder harnesses with overhead lap bars, more in line with the company's other modern thrill coasters. This improves the comfort. There is still one issue with this ride that has carried over: the low capacity. Due to their shuttle nature, these rides only have 1 train. Linear Gale had 12 rows. Wicked Twister and Legendary Twin Dragon had and have 16-row trains. Then the other Impulse coasters have used 14-row trains. Each row seats 2 guests, so these rides seat between 24 and 32 riders per cycle. Combined with their high running costs, maintenance, and capacity, I think the older Impulse coasters could be in trouble. In 2024, Six Flags merged with Cedar Fair, and the latter seems to have a larger say in the company's investments going forward. That is important to note for 2 reasons. 1. Cedar Fair places a high value on cost per rider. The Impulse coasters are terrible in that area. 2. Cedar Fair has had a very tumultuous relationship with Intamin over the years. They have stopped buying rides from that manufacturer and removed a handful of their rides as well. This includes Wicked Twister, and remember, they tried to remove Possessed a few years back. And I think Discovery Kingdom's Flash is in particular trouble given the larger amount of downtime it's seen relative to the others. While it would be a sad loss, the park is equipped to handle the absence. It has plenty of other thrill coasters, including another launch coaster in Superman that is just a short walk away. Even when this coaster has been closed, it still makes quite the impression as you enter the park. The vertical spike catches your eye as you look towards the park from the parking lot. Then the angled spike is positioned directly above the entrance, which gets you excited for your day. In 2019, the coaster was rethemed to Flash Vertical Velocity to fit in with the DC Universe area. It did not get any real theming, but it did get a fresh coat of paint, and this looked really good in my last visit in 2020. The bright red track and yellow supports really stood out against the blue sky. This ride is also notable for being the first coaster ever themed to the Flash. It is baffling to me that it took the chains along to theme a roller coaster at DC's Fastest Hero. Six Flags has since copied the name twice, once for Six Flags Great America's Vertical Velocity in 2022, and again in 2025 for Six Flags Great Adventure's upcoming Super Boomerang. Then Warner Bros. Movie World in Australia opened Flash Speed Force earlier this year, which is a relocated Intamin half-pipe. So while the Flash has broken through to have multiple roller coasters named after him, he still has not gotten a full circuit coaster to his name. The general guidance with Flash Vertical Velocity is to assume it's closed when you get to Discovery Kingdom, but if you see it cycling, ride it immediately. It could go down at any moment. When the ride is actually open, it usually has a reasonable wait. I've never had to wait more than 10 to 15 minutes for it. That is even on days when the other coasters have waits 3 to 4 times that. A big reason for that is because Flash is one of the highest capacity coasters at the park. It feels wrong to say that about an impulse coaster, but it's the sad reality at Discovery Kingdom. Most rides here regularly run just one train, so Flash fits right in. And since this ride is a long train and a reasonably short cycle, it can process a respectable amount of guests until it inevitably breaks down. The train holds 28 riders per cycle, as there are 14 rows of 2. If it does have a long wait, it is included in the park's paid Flash Pass Skip the Line system. This admits you right into the station. All guests are free to select any row they'd like once they reach the station. I like this coaster best in the front for a few reasons. You feel the speed best, you maximize the angled spike, and you get a freaky visual creeping towards the end of the track. Riders are restrained by an over-the-shoulder harness. These are hard, but comfortable enough for me. However, they have a very, very low verify. These are among the least accommodating restraints out there. If you have any sort of gut, you will struggle to fit. Outside of a technical issue, this is the number one thing that can delay a dispatch. Once checked, you blast off directly from the station. This launch is sudden, with no countdown nor warning. You get a decent punch because it's the only launch on the ride from a standstill, and the screech of the LIMs makes it sound even faster, at least for me. Then you head up the angled spike. If you're in the front few rows, you will slowly navigate the barrel roll, both forwards and backwards. You get some good hang time, but this moment in particular is extra special in the middle rows. These rows stall out perfectly while fully inverted, so you get the most sustained moment of hang time. This element does nothing in the back rows though, because you don't even reach the roll. One con with the reprofiled spike is that the entry is more gradual, so you don't get the large blast of positive Gs that the other installations offer. Next is the backwards launch. This is my favorite launch in the other impulse coasters. However, it feels a bit tamer on Flash, presumably due to the shorter spike and reduced speeds. This ride originally hit speeds of 70 miles per hour or 110 kilometers per hour, but it was slowed down to 60 miles per hour or 97 kilometers per hour. It still has an okay kick, but it is not nearly as punchy as the others. You then rocket up the straight backwards spike. This one has has a delightfully tight pullout at the bottom, so it offers a good burst of positive Gs in the rear rows because you take it with more speed there. The back rows also get some solid weightlessness in the spike, but it is a bit less sustained than the larger versions. You are far too low in the front rows to get that sensation though. You are staring directly at the ground at least, which is a better visual in the rear rows that are staring directly at a seat back. Next is a booster launch. It provides a slight kick. It mostly feels like you're just maintaining your speed, but this is the fastest forwards moment in the ride, so it's quite exciting up front because you're pelted with all the wind. You then ascend the angled spike and fall. Everyone gets hang time, but it is most plentiful in the rear rows because the train has lost a lot of momentum by the time you reach it. However, I still prefer this element in front because of the visuals. You slowly see the end of the track creeping up on you, and it mentally makes me feel really uneasy because I know those motors were capable of launching the train faster in its inaugural year. You then rocket backwards once again. You feel a slight kick, but it again feels like you're just holding your speed. Then you have your second climb up the back spike. It feels identical to the first pass. At one point, there was a holding brake here. The hardware is still there on the spike, but has not been used in nearly 2 decades. This element works sporadically in the ride's first year, pre-modification. The element required precise programming, but when the back spike was shortened and the speed was lessened, it is suspected that the park did not recalibrate the holding brake. As a result, it has barely worked from 2002 onwards. I have done holding brakes in 2 other impulse coasters, and it radically changes how the back spike feels. The train suddenly freezes in midair. This causes you to fall forwards into your restraint. It is a thrilling and unnerving sensation. Your mind struggles to process what is happening because it defies the laws of physics. Then the train is released and you plunge downwards, which offers some delightful float. You then hurtle down the launch track one last time, but this time, it doesn't feel like there's an LIM boost. It is there to start bleeding off speed, but you still have enough momentum to travel up part of the angled spike. The front rows will stall out in the barrel roll, offering copious amounts of hang time. The element is unfortunately quite dull further back in the train because you don't even reach the inversion. You then fall backwards and brake fairly abruptly. Once you decelerate, you slowly return to the station while you hear those LAMs whining. You then come to a stop, ending the 1 minute 15 second long experience. This is 25% longer than it was in its opening year because the train takes longer to navigate an angled spike versus a vertical one. This ride is just 630 feet or 190 meters of track, making it one of the shorter thrill coasters by track length. But because of the shuttle nature, you travel the track 2.5 times, so the duration is more respectable. In terms of pacing, this ride is not as tight as the other impulse coasters. The angled spike drags out the element. While I love the hang time, not everyone gets to experience it on the initial and final climbs. In terms of smoothness, this coaster is great. It tracks well, which is no surprise because it's an Intamin that spends so much time traveling in a straight path. On the other impulse coasters, the twisted spike can cause some headbanging, but I don't have that issue on Flash because you rotate at a slower rate. So, what would I rate Flash Vertical Velocity? I would give this coaster a 6 out of 10. This is a decent launch coaster. The initial launch is fun, and the lower bits have nice speed. The angled spike is a really cool maneuver in the front few rows, as it offers loads of hang time, but it does suffer in the rear rows. Then the spike has a good mix of positive Gs and weightlessness. I do prefer the traditional impulse coasters though. Those ones have better launches, better pacing, and more intensity. You don't get a chance to catch your breath in those ones. You can on Flash when you slowly travel down the angled spike in the upright position. Still, I do like how this one offered a distinctly different ride experience. I know we only got that because the park's deception and mistake, but it worked out in the end, when the ride runs. But again, this ride's uptime is a major issue, so I fully expect this ride to be removed in the near future. I honestly would not even be surprised if it never runs again, because Cedar Fair took over after the latest maintenance period began. So those are my thoughts on Flash Vertical Velocity at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. What are your thoughts on the ride? Do you think it'll ever run again? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you consider subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster and amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.